It's like painting. When we're sculpting with wood, we're thinking about shape and form and the material itself, the intricacies in the grain. And when we're taking photographs, we're thinking about composition, the light, the colour. Even when we're speaking, we've kind of got a story to tell and a vision for others to see. So I guess the making process begins with the wood. We work with a couple of sawmills who are local to us, and most of their wood is coming from East Sussex, all being felled for various reasons, generally because the trees have just got so old that they're coming down and they're felled and they go to the sawmill. They turn up here at the workshop on a huge lorry with a great big crane, several tons dropped at once, and they're immovable objects. And that's where our making process begins. We start, I guess, by looking at the wood and trying to sort of understand how best we might use each piece. We're looking for knots, we're looking for the way some of the tree may have rotted, interesting character within the grain, looking to then capture that within whatever it might be that we're going to make. Yeah, we begin with chainsaws, starting the carving process, and you go from these enormous chunks of wood, and very quickly you can be carving bits away and developing the form. It's a really beautiful process, and infusing for not only in the production of the object, but for yourself. You're working really hard, and you really feel it. You feel engaged with the piece. You're introducing yourself to the material, and the material's kind of beginning to give back to you. So once we've done with the chainsaws as much as we possibly can, we end up with objects that you can begin to sort of manhandle and drag about. And we then go in with angle grinders with various sort of wood carving tools, shaping, refining. Looking at the wood again, and all the time you're sort of revealing the character of the wood and thinking, I want to keep that, we're going to go this way, this is really beautiful here, we'll maintain these areas and we'll work away here. So you're sort of in this co-design and constant conversation between material and yourself, and each is informing the other as you sort of journey into the making. We get them as thin as we possibly can with the tools. We give them a real rough sand to get rid of our sort of making marks. And then they go into a steamer. It's the beginning of a new chapter. You've done all of your making and all of your considerations. You give it to the steamer, and in that environment, the wood's taken up to about 120 degrees, and we hold it there for about 10 hours. You're driving steam in, it's forcing the moisture out of the cellular structure of the wood, putting the wood under enormous tension and release of tension in a way. And it begins to crack, warp, move, change shape, and all of what you designed gets undone to some degree, or at least enhanced, or that's how I kind of see it. And when we open the steamer at the end of that process, you're always a little apprehensive because sometimes things can really pop and go to pieces. But 9 times out of 10, you're sort of left with new shapes that have chaotically and organically morphed into something that is, again, less made and more natural. And I guess that's kind of the beauty of oak, or wood more generically. It's an organic material, and it's going to do its own thing. And if we can capture that, be part of the forming of those shapes, but then again allow the natural and the organic back into the making, you're capturing the best of both worlds. We pretty quickly after steaming burn the outside. We'll go in with like a big blowtorch. You burn hard, you're driving again the moisture back out of the wood and getting this beautiful charred surface that you can sandblast and brush back, and the undulation in the grain is just beautiful. Again, forcing the wood into quite extreme conditions, splitting, moving, bits catching fire, which you sort of put out, but then you sort of think, oh, actually, you know, that's a really lovely edge, the way that's burned away. So again, you're enhancing the design and making it less human, less made, returning it in a sort of cycle back to something organic. So we get to a place where the making is done, and then we've got this sort of choice of how we're going to finish the wood. And there's a whole sort of range of vocabularies that we can apply to the surface. We can bleach the outside, and it sort of takes all of the colour out of the wood, and you're left with this really beautiful sort of bone, ivory, white surface. You can heavily sandblast that and you get undulating patterns, or you could cut that back so it's super smooth. We polish the insides. I kind of always go that way. Just there is nothing more beautiful than the polished interior, oiled, and it gives out this golden honey light that's sort of so warm and meditative and calming. And then my personal favourite is when we're burning the outside of these and then we oil them, you capture this incredibly intense black surface, though it's not really black. It captures light, and it will capture the sort of the blue of the sky, or if there's grass outside, you'll see greens in it. Incredible surface, intricate because of all of the sort of patterns in the grain. They then become this sort of, like paintings. They're framed, and then internally you've just captured a moment in a material that has lived for many hundreds of years in some cases, and it's resonating out in energy. You know, create very, in my opinion, very beautiful objects. So we all choose different ways in which we might express ourselves creatively, but what's fundamental perhaps to all of us is that we're intending for what it is that we make to be seen by others, and for them to enjoy it, respond, and kind of get a feedback on what it is we're doing. The most effective and the best way that we can present our work is critical to us then being able to convey these thoughts, ideas, and the visions of our making.
Wow. That's quite extraordinary, isn't it?
It's cool, yeah?
Yeah. That just brings them all to life. I mean, it's just such a fabulous installation. I can't believe you've got all 9 of them.
I know.
Yeah.
You know.
They are absolutely glorious together. It's like a forest of
is.
the canopies in a rainforest or something.
Sort of Avatar-esque.
Yeah, it is. It's extraordinary. It's such a lovely honey glow to the interior of it as well.
Yeah, yeah. No, everything's looking incredible, and it is. You know, what a rare opportunity to actually. You know, we've been working on these at the studio for the last several months.
Yeah.
And to have a collection that we can photograph and capture.
Yeah.
And record, basically.
Yeah, what a lovely opportunity, because I don't suppose you're ever going to have 9 again in the same place.
Who knows? Who knows what the world holds? So at the end of the making process, you've finished everything, and it's going to go out either to exhibition or it's going to be going to the client. So it's really critical that we record what we've made so that we've got a record of it and others can see what we've done before it disappears off into the world. And photography, I guess, is traditionally the way in which we've been doing that. I've always loved the sort of art of photography, not only just to capture the work and to record it, but The very image itself, the building of image, the placement, the lighting, the atmosphere that you can create to best showcase the work that you're doing is really exciting. It takes a lot of time. We were here for 10 hours, hanging, placing, adjusting, correcting, and all of that we did just to get this 1/60th of a second. And it was just this moment when we got them all hung, which, like I said, took 10 hours and a massive effort. And then we turned the lights on, we lit them, and all the house lights went down. And there was 7 or 8 of us here, and everyone just starts sliding about on the floor and moving around. No speech. Everyone just taking photos with phones. And I was doing it, and my phone was probably one of the most rubbish phones. But what kept striking me, and I think I was chatting with one of the guys, is that you looked at it on the phone and you were getting some great images, but it was only when you looked up again, it was like, that's still it. Photography is brilliant for creating imagery, not only to record the work, but also then to show others. But what's happening increasingly for myself at the moment is we're being asked by designers and clients to create visualizations of what projects might look like, and differing configurations of items like the pendants or furnishings or artwork, whatever it might be. And for me to then go away and do a drawing of that will take many, many hours, but I find it's really tricky to sort of say, okay, I've done a drawing, it's taken me 6 hours, but it might not look like this, it could look like this, and it could be. So we're really prescribed in that, so we're sort of locked into a limited world of visual representation. So what we've had the opportunity to do here with Racket Studios is we've photographed the lights in a traditional sense, but we've also employed image-based lighting, which gives us the opportunity to create lighting environments that are based within the virtual world. And this means that we can almost sort of create what the light would look like in a certain space, bouncing off other objects, and then time of day, we can see what things will be doing. You could have the light tracking from morning till night across the room. And furthermore, we've also got the opportunity to photo scan all of the items. So as we've been putting up the pendants in this composition for the still shoot, we've been scanning each one inside, outside, all around, and developing a 3D model of each of the pendants, which then gives us the opportunity to take each pendant individually, place it within the virtual world, and we can then configure, manipulate, create a myriad of compositions any which way we like. We can light them in differing ways and create pretty much any design or composition that we might wish to. So from the practicalities of like trying to do drawings to visualize ideas for future projects or whatever it could be, we've just saved ourselves an enormous amount of time, but we're also doing it in the way that is going to deliver the most incredible aesthetic. There's a new world, and it's a digital world, and in there somewhere there's a place for everybody and everybody's creative output, and if you embrace it, you'll be part of it. When you're talking with people, conversation moves at speed and ideas move at speed, and one person says one thing, one person says another, and we're rolling. Now these images, we can almost adjust the images at the same sort of time as conversation works. It's the same, the way the mind works, the way thoughts sort of transfer between others. we're almost at the point where technology is at speed with the human, and we can sort of drive forward ideas in a really enthusiastic, inspiring and energized way. So one of the things that I've been playing with is Midjourney, which is an AI program to create images. What you can do is you can feed in the images of your own work and use that as a seed for the generation of AI imagery back for you. If you put in an image of a sculpture, say, and you ask for it to consider it as, to give you back another sculpture, it will change. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Like sketching almost. It's charging ideas back at you. We quite often at the studio sort of look at these and think, oh, there's a lovely element here that we could build upon and use that for an idea. And I guess one of the trickiest things in communication is we come from different places. So as a maker, I might describe something, but as a designer, it might not be read in the same way, which is where the sort of image and visualization of ideas transcends language, because everyone's seeing the same thing. And we can respond to that core reference, if you like, and build upon it.
Well, that's the scary thing, isn't it? Because there's this big argument about craft and technology and, how, that's conflicting in some way. But actually, if you combine those two forces, it can be something so much stronger. And that's, the kind of the remit of the gallery, I suppose. We're trying to be on that kind of cutting edge of craft and technology. And you're thinking about someone like Gareth Neal, who did all the 3D printing of sand, and he did the CNC cutting of his pieces, and how he used that as a tool to develop his own creative vision. And I think that's essentially, the same thing that you're working on now with your projects.
Yeah. So there was a point in history when people believed that if you had your photograph taken, it would capture your soul and somehow it would take the essence of you. And I think perhaps not in such strong terms at the moment. There's a sort of a mainstream presentation of AI and the virtual world and the digital realm being presented as something that we should sort of fear and be wary of, and hang on a minute, isn't this going to take over? And I think it's not a bad thing to be conscious of that and to keep in check. But in the same breath, in embracing its use and understanding what you can do and sort of collaborating with, like myself, with Racket Studios at the moment and with the gallery, we're just looking to find new ways to further our opportunity to deliver creative output. And it's just another tool, in the same way that for me, the chainsaw, 100 years ago, there wasn't a chainsaw, but now I've got one and I can work quick, I can work efficient. It doesn't do everything, but it's an element to my toolbox. And I think personally that all of these things, they're not to be feared and not to be rejected as if they're somehow malevolent or cheating, taking away from real visceral. This is all work where everyone's working, but they're just interesting and they deliver incredible content.
For me in the gallery, it's quite interesting about the idea of collaboration.
Yep.
And how that's becoming so much more important as we look at collectible design and contemporary craft and fine art, that actually the more people that get involved in this journey, the more secure and the more exciting and the more creative it can be. I mean, here you've got this wonderful collaboration with Racket Studios and the gallery, and and everybody can join forces to actually create this wonderful vision going forward. And those different types of mindsets, I mean, how you can explore that language, and the guys here can help you realize that. What's also interesting for me is categorization, and how cultures categorize, or subjects, sciences, the arts, humanities, they're all separate categorizations, and how this kind of collaboration can bring all those very different minds together. I think that's what's, for me, quite exciting about this.
Truly. So we've gone from sort of making lots of labour, visceral making, working with wood, responding to the character, the grain, the material, the organic material that comes from the natural, real world. And we've gone full cycle, or sort of the whole gamut of creation here. We've made, we've presented, we've captured in a traditional sense, but now we're also sort of really using every single tool that technology can provide to get everything that we possibly can to then present out further. I'm Nic Webb, and this has been the Kumo collection, the journey so far, both virtual and real.